What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the live stream. If it's your first time here, my name's Lewis, also known as MrCameraJunkie, where I remind you to upgrade your skills before your gear. This is the Camera Junkie live stream, episode number 67 of weeks consecutive every Saturday night here at Club Camera Junkie, and I hope you find yourself well. Today we're going to be talking about the recap, or just recapping Apple's latest event that just happened during this week on the 8th of March. We talked a little bit about it yesterday. It was a little lackluster, rumored, but Apple came with guns a-blazing and swinging with everything that they had. We're gonna talk about it. I'm really excited. I'm gonna mention why I think it matters when it comes to content creators such as yourselves, and let's get into it. First, let's see who's here in chat. As always, let's check in with the Camera Junkie crew. And first of all, we have Randall checking in, saying hello to everyone. Says he's asking Scott if he's getting the Max or the Ultra Studio. Melanie's waving in hello. Mario saying hi to me and to all. Same as Mr. Moderator Paul Duncan. Scott says, I have superpowers already. Thank you, my brother. That's pretty good. And he gave the thumbs up. We got cameras here. As always, enjoy all the cameras. Sammy's in the house. How you doing, Sammy? Says 6 for 6. So yeah, so that means thumbs up. If you're just stopping in now, remember to hit that like button and do that for the crew. It doesn't cost you anything. It goes a long way, showing the YouTube system that we got something good going on here. But just the same way, I never ask you guys to share this out. So if you do find it within your hearts to let somebody know about the Camera Junkie live stream, so that we can build this community even bigger than what it is today. But we're 6 for 6, so what else can we ask for? Okay, we also have Kevin here. Sammy says, do you stay home and not go to San Diego for Video Marketing World? Yes, that's exactly what happened. Just to touch a little bit on that, it was over a month ago now when I was already putting the budgets and trying to see if I was going to be able to make this event. I had a conversation with Doc Rock, and in that conversation I just let him know that it was just too soon, that even though now I have more of an ability and accessibility to actually make these events, this one just happened to just be too close. And when I started putting the numbers together, I think the plane tickets for me and Aiden were like over $3,000, and I even had the idea of renting a RV so that I can take like an extended road trip and take like the week before, the week of, while I was there at the Social Media Marketing World, and a week coming back. That rental ended up being around the same price, over $3,000, and that didn't include fuel, food, and just kind of like having like a safety buffer in case anything were to happen on a trip, especially something that long. I always have in the back of my mind to do a road trip, because I really never taken Aiden on a plane, and I don't know how he would react to it. I want to try to see if maybe I can take a short flight, maybe from Miami to Orlando, just to see how he'll handle the air pressure, because he's very sensitive when it comes to his ears. So I'm always very cautious about that as well. So I'm always trying to play both angles, but unfortunately this time it didn't pan out. I told Doc Rock that I could spend all of my energies and not have enough funds to try to do this trip, or I can try to do other things to better my business, to better my situation, so that I can make the next trip even easier. And that's part of what we're talking about here. Instead of me taking all of those funds and putting it into a trip to San Diego, I was able to now redirect that fund and add in my energies and look at what Apple was able to provide, and I was able to pick up a Mac Studio. Now, I'll get into a little bit more into the details and why I actually pulled the trigger, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. So, if I were to be in social media marketing world right now, I wouldn't have been able to get this upgrade, and wow, what an upgrade, right? Especially for me. But I'm really happy with what I'm going to be able to do, because this is going to be a computer that some people say like, oh, you won't have to change it for the next 4 or 5 years. The way that I use my computers, I won't be able to, I won't have the need to change it for probably the next 10. And if you find that hard to believe, it just kind of snuck up on me, but right in front of me I have a laptop that's gonna creep up on 10 years right now, that's sitting right in front of me, and I look at this Retina display and I'm like, that's a really good image. It's a really, really good image, especially for what I use it for majorly, which is my photo editing. So blemish removal connected with my Wacom tablet, and I'm just going away. This is an excellent machine. It does everything that I needed to do. That's why I have had no need to upgrade it. And so, sequentially, right now, I'm doing this entire production that you're seeing here, right? Ecamm Live. I'm doing automatic camera switching, audio processing, everything on the fly for the live stream. And at the same time, oh no, that wasn't the camera that was supposed to be there. Let's pause it. Okay, and you see, but I have so many cameras connected. Let's switch this up. That was that one. There we go. And now we're gonna lock that up, all with the power of Ecamm. Okay, let me just see. Cam is not even registering here. Okay, we have to switch all the scenes, but we're gonna do it on the fly here. Shouldn't be much longer. Boom. Okay, now that that's set, let's hit the play button and we will continue. Well, as I was saying, all of this done, right? The scrolling ticker, the text on screen, Ecamm, my production, I have programs running in the back, the whole nine, and I'm doing this on an entry-level base model Mac Mini. I'm running everything that I do, including all of my video edits, which I do them in 4K video edits without proxy files, all on the base model Mac Mini. So just basing my knowledge on this, anything that I get more powerful than this is already exceeding my current workflow. And with that being said, now I take a look at it and it's like, this is an 8 gigabyte machine with the same integrated unified memory. So the unified memory, 8 gigabytes, it's an 8-core processor, 8-core GPU processor, and it can handle everything. So like I said, any of the laptops that I was in the market for within the same line, we're gonna outdo this so much that everything is gonna be like, it's already like a complete upgrade. But I was looking to get an upgrade from this, and what was available prior to this Apple event was just the Pro and the Max chips on the MacBook Pro series laptops. There's gonna be like, I'm just making sure that I don't have a tongue twister because there's so many Macs with Max chips on them that this whole conversation is a tongue twister. So I digress. So we're gonna continue. So what did Apple do on this event, right? Like, they came out with a couple of things right off the bat. The first thing that they did was that they brought out the iPhone colors. So for the iPhone 11, they brought out a green color, and iPhone 11 Pro, and I don't think the Pro Max, but just the iPhone 11 Pro gets an alpine green, which is, you know, it's okay. For my taste, majorly I would lean more towards the alpine green. I currently have that limited edition, I forgot what it's called, the midnight green on the iPhone 11 Pro, which I'll show you now. It still looks kind of blue, but it has like that blue hint on it. And at the end of the day, I have it in a case, so 9 times out of 10 it looks black, but it's a nice color. I like it. It leans more towards the gray side, so it's very neutral even though it's green. These have a lot more punch to them. It has a lot more, you know, saturation to the colors that you're going to be dealing with. They're nice, but that was pretty much the only upgrade when it came to the iPhone 13. Then they actually have the iPhone SE, which is, well, used to be called the Special Edition. I would probably call it like the VE, like the Value Edition now. It's the old form factor of the iPhone 8 that they've revamped the internals, but it is a pretty interesting phone when you look at it at the end of the day. Excuse me. When you look at it at the end of the day, because when it comes to entry-level phones or phones within that caliber from any other company, whether it be LG, Samsung, anything within $400 to $450 does not have an A15 Bionic chip in it that gives you the ability to do everything from like that deep fusion with the cameras to like that low light mode. Everything that you can do with the iPhone 13 cameras when it comes to the computational side has to do and is based on this A15 chip that they now have on this iPhone SE. They were also able to put that ceramic shield, you know, the new type of nano coating glass that they have on the iPhone 13 on the front and back of this iPhone SE, so it's supposed to last longer. And people forget that there's you know, like, well, let me not jump the gun because that's people complaining about this phone in general, right? But there's a market for everyone, right? But we'll get to that in a little bit, because when it comes to complaints, it's just, I feel that the people who actually complain when it comes to these companies like Apple is like, when it comes down to it, right, it's like they didn't make the product exactly the way I wanted it for me exactly, right? And that's like, yeah, but this takes care of your needs and it's available for a vast majority more people, so that we can market it to people that are not just like you, who is one individual. Coffee break. All right. Excuse me, man. I got a frog in my throat. Okay. Oh, and another thing that the A15 Bionic does allow when it comes to the iPhone SE is part of the 5G, connection. So I don't think it has a nanometer wave in it with the new modem, but with the new modem and the new chip is what is allowing it to be such a power pack machine. Apparently it also has a little bit bigger battery, so it's gonna do better when it comes to the battery life. But just like I mentioned to everyone, when it comes to like my A6100 comparative to like my old A6000 or my which is the one that I have, the NEX6 up there, that even though they use the same battery and they have the same processor, the same sensor on the camera, the processor inside of the cameras are so vastly different that the processor within the A6100 can give you face tracking, autofocus, and video. It has so many like added features that these older cameras do not have, yet it's so efficient that it actually extends the same exact battery and utilizes the same battery and gives you a lot more life out of it because it's so efficient. So that's also another added bonus to this A15 chip, which is what I think is going to end up giving the SE phone better battery life, on top of it being a little bit bigger size. Now, the next thing that they mentioned is the iPad Air update, or the iPad Air 5th generation, which now is going to come with the M1 chip, which is bonkers, right? That's just like, because that is the same exact chip that is in their iPad Pro series, which is the same chip that is running this entire process right now. It's the same chip that is in this little Mac Mini. 8-core processor, 8-core GPU, meaning it has complete capability to run basically iOS, right? Not iOS, excuse me, but Mac OS. So it can run, hypothetically, it could run Monterey. But I'm gonna, leave that right there. It also is getting the new 5G chip, which, with the processing, of course, is gonna have complete capability on that, and also came in a new color purple, which I think Doc Rock is gonna really fall in love with. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up picking up the iPad Air in this new purple color. It looks really nice. It still leans towards the silver side. And I'm also going to take this time right now because I've mentioned him a couple of times today, and as always, I have a tradition. So before I get any deeper, I didn't know exactly where I was going to mention it, but as always, we have Cities Got channels that I think you should go and watch. So today's Cities Got is Mr. none other than Doc Rock. Alright, so there we go. Doc Rock, if you haven't heard of him, I mention him quite often in my live streams and throughout my videos. He is my mentor, he is my brother, he is my friend. Right now, he's currently in San Diego in the social media marketing world, so I have a really big case of FOMO currently because I'm missing out on so many amazing events that are happening, but so many amazing people. There were so many people there that I really wanted to go meet for the first time. I was fortunate enough to meet Doc Rock in Albany last year, and it just solidified a friendship, a camaraderie, like I said, a mentorship. And he's someone that if you haven't heard of before and you're looking to start content creation, he is a content creation coach. He has live streams every Tuesdays and Saturdays around 1 o'clock, I believe, is how it's scheduled, depending on daylight savings, because he's in Hawaii and they don't deal with daylight savings, so he's always the same exact time. We're the ones who are always flopping around, but he has these live streams, and then he's also part of the Ecamm fam, and he hosts live streams for their channel as well. He has Demo Fridays, which is where he teaches you and anyone who's willing to show up about Ecamm and the possibilities and the and the power of this program. I can't say enough about this man. There's a certain energy about Doc Rock that no matter who meets him, it's like magnetic, and you'd be surprised at how many people just gravitate toward this man, and I have to say that I'm one of them, you know. And it was over a year ago now where I've mentioned before that I found Doc Rock at the start of this live streaming endeavor. So episode 1, or the first Saturday of the CameraJunkie live stream, going way back to December 5th of 2020, started the day after, or the day of me meeting Doc Rock. So there you go. It's an influence that has impacted me on top of many others who gave me the spark to actually even think that I had the ability to do this, and in such a short amount of time, this roller coaster that is YouTube content creation, and this amazing communities of my camera junkies, the group at the LGL and the Ecamm fam, just in such good hands, right? I'm in good hands. It has nothing to do with Allstate. Okay. All right, so now I've taken that, and let's go back to the first shot right here. Boom. Okay, so we're gonna keep things rolling. We're gonna go back to the Apple event, and we pretty much covered everything that had to do with the upgrade for the iPad Air. So we're just gonna move on, because the next big step after they made these announcements that apparently were like kind of expected, you know, they were the missing pieces in their own lineup. As if we were to look right now, one of the big things that did happen in this event is that after they demonstrated what they had available, they also removed the 27-inch iMac Pro from the website, so it's no longer available, and people are freaking out about not having a replacement because of certain things that these individuals from Apple say in these events, and people pick apart and dice every single word just to see if they can like decipher, decode something that they're trying to let us know. But we will get to that as well. The next thing that happened in the event was that they unveiled their latest chip and the final point, as they said themselves, of the M1 chips and the lineup of M1. So when it comes to M1 and Apple Silicon, you have the M1, which is the standard chip. Then you have the M1 Pro. There are 2 variants of that chip depending on core counts. And then you have the Max chip, which just the same, there's a couple of variants depending on core count. That is what we had available to us until this event. And like I said, there wasn't really a lot of hype behind it, because what I had just mentioned to you, the iPhone 13 green colors, the iPhone SE upgrades, and the iPad 5th generation upgrades were basically the only thing that the rumor mill, so to speak, and people were talking about. Like you said, the water cooler, that's like the only thing that they were talking about at the moment. So it was the only thing that we were really expected. And then they blew the doors out with M1 Ultra, which is something that they knew but that they hadn't really talked about, which was that these M1 Pros and the M1 Max chips have this interconnecting die, which allows them to basically hybridize 2 chips together through what they're calling Ultra Fusion. That's the name that they put it. So the Ultra chips are because of the Ultra Fusion, and because of it, they're able to fuse the different variants of their chips. So the same way that you had 2 different types of chips on the Mac or the M1 Pros, right? Because of core count, they were able to fuse the same differences and double up each set of numbers to actually get 2 different types of fusion cards available, so to speak, on the Ultra series, because of the different variants of the Max cards that are available to do. So Let me correct myself if I misspoke. The Pro series of the cards are not available as far as Ultra. What's available is the Max and the Ultra, but because the Max cards, just like the Pros, have different variants in core counts, they're able to fuse the Max chips with the different variants to give us two more different variations of the M1 Ultra. So hopefully I got all that information correct. Like I said, this is all a tongue twister, so hopefully we're all following along. This is amazing because of the capabilities of these chips. We're not saying that just because you're doubling the chips, you're absolutely doubling the power. I do feel that there is going to be some trade-off as far as the connection goes, but as far as the scaling of the architecture goes, it is pretty much linear. That's why the M1 Pro chips prior to this event were available in 16 gigabytes and 32, because you can either have them like standard or the doubled the amount, but you could not get to 64 gigabytes on a Pro chip, right, on an M1 Pro chip, because it just didn't have the capability or pretty much the surface area on the chip itself, because these memory modules are pretty much connected directly to them as well, so that there's no latency on them reaching the capabilities and the functionalities of these memory modules. So now, okay, Sly, awesome. Guys, I just gotta mention to everyone who's ever bought me a coffee, including Sly, everyone, like, you guys are amazing. Like, it really shows me that, like, I love you guys so much, and that there's so much reciprocation. It just means the world, because as my channel sits right now, I don't have the monetization metrics that YouTube were to require, so that I can enable channel memberships and what is called super chats and things like that, where it makes it very easy for the communities to provide like a tip and show appreciation to someone like myself for my efforts. And the fact that we have the ability to do it prior to reaching these monetization metrics through YouTube, and have a buy me a coffee page that gives you the ability to directly bless me. Anyone that does that and takes that extra steps, and you guys mean the world to me. That's why I always make sure to put the ticker here, because I never want to forget, and I do not want to show my appreciation. So thank you, Sly. It means the world to me. So right back to it. The fact that we have these new Ultra chips in however many variations, we also now have to figure out where we're going to utilize them, because Max Yuriev from the channel Max Tech, he used to have one named exactly his name, but I think something happened, and now he's doing much better with his new channel. Apparently there's nothing wrong with it through the metrics as well in YouTube, and he's doing very well. And he actually did some tests with the MacBook Pro laptops with different variations of the chips, of the Pro chips, the Max chips, and he found out, just double checking on Aiden, he found out that the kind of like the sweet spot when it came to power and performance was the Max chip, but the 10 core 24 core GPU, because it was perfect in the 16-inch MacBook Pro body as far as thermals went. Like the chips that they had that exceeded that with the higher GPU counts, I believe the 48. Actually, that's for the Max chips. There's so many going on. Well, for the Pro and the Max chips, not the Ultra chips, the new ones, that that chip was kind of like the Goldilocks zone when it came to the thermals that was available on the MacBook Pro, because it's still limited to the size of a laptop. So we just have to be clear on that. And something that you don't have to worry about that as far as vapor chambers and the amount of space that's necessary to actually cool off these chips effectively to maximize their production so that they don't throttle themselves because they're too hot. And if you're not understanding what I mean, then the easiest way that I can break it down is like when you start to do a task, whatever it is, whether it's mopping the floor, you know, raking the leaves outside, anything, you as a person, you start using energy and you start getting hot. And the hotter that you get, the slower your production ends up being because you're winded. And now you have to wait and you have to recover, and it takes longer for you to produce like more raking of the leaves, so to speak. That's kind of the same way that these chips work. If they reach a limit where they're breaking a sweat too much and they get too hot, they're gonna slow themselves down. They're gonna thermal throttle themselves so that they don't burn out. It's something that we do as humans, and our computers do the same thing to save themselves so that they have longevity for you the same way. If you're able to have a bigger cooling system to dissipate the heat, then that cooling system will allow you to run your processor, you know, hotter for longer and produce more for you, because of the simple reason that it's not breaking the sweat. It's almost like it's been working out for this. And that's what we see in the new design for this new Mac Studio. Mac Studio is the name that Apple unveiled their new desktop laptop. It's basically a scaled up version of this Mac Mini. The dimensions are the same, but it's kind of like that they just elongated the top to allow for the thermals that are needed to cool off these processors to the max, right? There we go. So let me... Now, we continue because you have this new design that is, like I said, it looks familiar, so you still get the same aesthetic of that brushed aluminum. You're getting I/O up the wazoo, so you're talking about four Thunderbolt 4 ports in the back. Let me try that one again, because that one... Okay, you're gonna get 4 Thunderbolt 4 ports in the back. You're also going to get 2 USB-A. You're going to get a 10 gigabit Ethernet port, HDMI, and standard 3.5, or like, you know, how Apple calls it, Pro Audio Jack. That is amazing all on its own, being that you having 4 Thunderbolt 4 ports with bus controllers for each port, giving you the ability to control 4 displays right off the bat. Nothing else, just 4 cables to 4 displays, and you're good to go. And you're talking about 4K resolution, amazing. And they took it a step further because the I/O now extends all the way to the front, and even on the front you have another 2 USB-C ports and an SD card reader, an SDXD, right? SDXD, something, the high capacity one. Now, this is all built in. If you decided to pick up the Ultra, those Thunderbolt ports that are USB-C, actually the USB-C ports turn into Thunderbolt 4 ports, because the chips themselves being doubled now have the capacity and the bus lanes to control all that I/O, including more. So if you understand that the same way that they're scaling the chips up has to do with how many controllers are available for these computers, meaning how many monitors you can connect or how many external devices can be controlled, then it really leads you to understand a little bit of why they're scaling their chips the way that they are, and that prior to this event there was even rumors of some quad chip thing. Now this is before we even had wind of like knowing what they were doing with fusing the chips, because computers with multiple processors have existed for a long time. But just like, you know, the dude on the Apple event was talking about, because I forgot his name right now, but he was basically saying that there's a lot of latency that you're causing and creating because the programs are not designed for computer or motherboards that have multiple processors. It's almost like if you have a multiple processor board, you almost have to build your own operating system to utilize it, because most programs and designers that are making programs are not designing the programs to utilize multiple processors in that way, unless they're specifically designing a program for a specific operating system to utilize that. And that's when you're talking about, you know, enterprise work, where it is very particular to their needs, and they're literally getting a custom built computer for whatever need that they could be having, and that could be in the medical field, etc., because there could be so many use case options when it comes to that. So these machines are also going to be equipped with Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5, and like I said, it has the I/O to connect. You can connect 5 displays right off the bat without adding any dongles or anything like that, because you have the 4 Thunderbolt 4 ports and the HDMI. So you can connect the HDMI and that will be your 5th display. But because, like I said, that you're able to connect 4 displays, meaning that there's controllers for each one. If you're using like these the USB 4 hubs. Aiden, are you okay? Gotta check on the prints. Okay. If you're using the hubs that people tend to love so much, they're pretty much daisy chainable off of any of them. So if done correctly, you pretty much have expansion for days off of this machine. And that's just like, oh, I can't even, it's almost like limitless just with the system that they have right now. Okay, we're 40 minutes in. I'm trying to get through this information as fast as possible. So now, the chips, right? You have the Max and the Ultra for the new studio design. Like I said before, when it comes to the Max chips, you have 2 variants. You have the 10 core with 24 CPU cores and the 10 core with 32 CPU cores, or the GPU cores, correction. 24 GPU or 32 GPU is the difference between the Max chips, and that also gives you the ability to have either 32 gigabytes of RAM or 64. That's the availability. When it comes to the SSD, using the Max chips, it's the same 512 up to 8 terabytes that you can configure your new studio computer. When it comes to the Ultra chips, because I really don't even know, like the Ultra chips, the variants that you have is either a 20 core CPU, 48 core GPU, or a 20 core CPU and 64 core GPU. Which, now, because it's a direct linking of 2 Max chips, this is also another big, addition, that this Ultra chip has a 32 core neural engine. Now, all of the other chips prior, because they were a single SoC, no matter how many cores or no matter how much RAM was added, and this is, we're talking about the M1, the M1 Pro, and the M1 Max, they were all equal at a 16 core neural engine, which is the learning engine that has to do with this. Give me 1 second, guys. I'll be right back. I need to do fatherly things. All right. Okay. I get back and I needed to excuse myself right away. All right, but we will continue. Thank you for the time, guys. Seems like Aiden's better now. Just needed to do my fatherly duties. All right, let me go back to my list. Okay, I was talking about the neural core engines. So the neural core engines are like the learning aspect or the AI aspect of these chips, which is very interesting because the M1 Ultra is the only one that, because it physically has two of these dies interconnected via this ultra fusion technology, it's what's giving it the double capacity and everything. That's why all of the numbers are linear. If you look at, you know, the max chip, you either have a 24 core GPU, and if you were to double that, it's 48, which is the first chip of the Ultra. And if you take that same max chip and you use the 32 core GPU, that's the 64 core, literally just scaled up and doubled. And like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're doubling the actual power out of it, because there is going to be, like, I believe what we call some fall off, you know, like because of the connection. But the fact that you're getting anything near double the power is remarkable when you compare it to any of the Intel chips, because the difference between an i9 series 11 and an i9 series 12 when it comes to the power and production, you're talking about percentages like, oh, it's 7%, you know, better than the previous version, and they could only skim off so much that this type of scaling is unheard of, because even if it's not 1-to-1, it's still so much far better than just a 5% increase, a 7% increase, which is what we're used to having as far as norms coming on like the Intel side. That's why you would basically have to run a Xeon processor, which is a server designed processor, because of all of the added cores into a Mac Pro to get the most out of like the systems. It's been years that Apple's been telling Intel to try to like step up their game, and it's pretty funny because apparently Intel right now, like just days after Apple's event, came out with a press release saying that they have a chip that is designed to compete with their with Apple's M1 Max chip, right? And it's supposed to exceed the power of the Max, and that has nothing to do with the Ultra, which is, like I said, almost is getting close to doubling that processing power. The big moment here is that chip is designed to come out in 2024 for Intel. I don't know if they heard, but you know, Apple just dropped this PC or this chip, right? They're trying to catch up on the Max chip, and they're not even going to be able to come up with what Apple has today in the Max until 2024. I don't even want to think where Apple is going to be with their lineup of SoCs 2 years from now, because we're already going to be on M2 and stuff. It's just going to be ridiculous. So good luck, Intel, right? But the same way that it scales up and everything doubles, the Ultra chips being 2 Max chips, and the smallest amount of unified memory that you can get with a Max chip. Now look at what I'm telling you. The smallest amount that you can get a Max chip with RAM is 32 gigs because of the way that they're built. So you put that doubled, and that's the first or the least amount that you can get with the Ultra chips, which is 64 gigabytes of RAM. Or you can double it, which is the same thing that you can do with the Max chip, which is from 32 you can go to 64, and in the Ultra you can go to 64 to 128. And the crazy thing about this technology is that it's all interconnected. So whether you're using your computer for more CPU related tasks, whether you're using it for more GPU related tasks, the amount of RAM that you select is directly correlation to it. So 128 gigs is hypothetically a 128 gigabyte RAM GPU if the program that you're using is not really utilizing the CPU cores and is rendering everything in real time through the GPU. And that's where this thing is just like, once again, bonkers, because this is all of the things that I was able to understand while these, experts are just demonstrating and giving all this information out to us. And then the last thing to accompany the M1 Studio computer is the Studio display. Now this is a 27-inch 5K Retina display. It's now going to come with their spatial audio and a 6-speaker sound system. It has their same 3 microphone array that is designed to eliminate noise and capture like crystal clear audio. Is the same one that is on the Mac Pro laptops currently. So that's added to it with the same 1080 4K webcam. Right? I believe so, yeah. The 1080 can do 4K. So you have this display now, and it's got a pretty, hefty price tag on it. But that's the side piece to this computer, and that's where where the controversy starts when it comes to this event, because it's within this display is going to have an A13 chip, and a lot of people were like, oh, so I'm going to be able to use it like an iPad when I don't have anything attached to it, and not at all. It literally is there to give center stage to the webcam, also to clear up the microphone and the speakers. Kind of like what I'm trying to comprehend is kind of like an active echo cancellation, so that you're able to use the microphones and the speaker at the same time, just like you would on your iPhone. So all of the processing that is necessary to to complete that is what's being used for this A13 Bionic chip that's added into this display. But also it is going to help out the older Mac computers that don't have M1, that are Intel based but are still relatively new, are able to connect to this display now through the Thunderbolt port and access that functionality, access the center stage, access Hey Siri, and all of these things through the Bionic chip within the display, even if you're using an Intel based Mac computer being a bit older. So it's kind of bringing your older Apple devices up to par, because you're able to put it into the screen instead of into your machine. So it's pretty interesting. A couple of other price variants on it is that it has a nano glass coating, which also increases the price. That is everything that happened in this event. But now I'm going to give you my point of view. I was already in the market for a computer. I spoke to Tom Buck, and he had told me that his M1 Max MacBook Pro was the fastest computer he had ever used, and I could understand, because if he's still utilizing the M1 Mini as his everyday machine, which I have myself, I totally understand. But when it comes to the projects that I have coming up in the horizon as far as video editing, that would be taking this machine to its limits, and mostly because I did get the stock or the base model. If this were to be the 16 gigabyte RAM or unified memory machine, I would probably be a little bit better off, because it could handle more of the 4K layer stacking, and that's where that memory would be utilized directly. that's where I was already looking into upgrading to at least 32 gigabytes of video memory or unified memory within a 14-inch MacBook Pro. So I had planned out a 14-inch MacBook Pro entry level, which is I believe it's a 10-core CPU, 14-core GPU. Pro chip, which is also incredible, jumping up from 16 gigabytes as standard to a 32 gigabyte max on that chip, and then also increasing that from 512 to 1 terabyte. That was gonna be like my desktop replacement, and it was gonna replace a couple of my computers effectively, for the simple fact that, as you can see right here, right under here, I have my MacBook Pro. This is my 2013, and this guy right here is my photo editing machine. So I was going to, two birds with one stone, and I was going to pick up this machine and have it running most of my video editing, but then in the use case scenario also connect my tablet as well. I have this MacBook Pro here as well, but I really dislike, okay, we're losing connection on the phone. All right, we continue. I don't really like using the Mac or laptops as desktop replacements. They're limited, especially when it comes to the thermals, and when I try to push things like that, that's when you start hearing the fans kick on and doing all those crazy things. So they're not the best, even if they are like a MacBook Pro. I do think that this would be the best iteration, and I mentioned it on my video today as well, that I feel that that machine would still be overkill. That 10 core 14 core GPU, that machine that I had just mentioned that I spec'd out, it was running up to through Apple at $2,600. So it was $2,599 right there. That was like my budget, that was like my mark, and I was like, that will take care of all of my needs. And it's in a laptop form, so even though I wouldn't be utilizing that aspect to the max, it was still in that form factor, and I was like, it would still be a go. Until the Apple event came around, and everything that I mentioned prior is what really got my heads turning. And as soon as Sir Johnny over there said that it was going to be $19.99 to start, which is the starting price or the entry level price for the MacBook Pro, that's when I was like, okay, let's see exactly what's coming up. So I was thinking that it was going to be something similar. So I was thinking it was probably going to be the upgraded Pro, right? So if we're going to say a Mac Mini Pro, a Mac Mini Pro could actually have the Pro chip, the same one that I just referenced, the 10-core CPU, 14-core GPU, M1, up to 32 gigabytes of unified RAM, right? Because if somebody were to tell you, hey, can you get the same form factor that you have here at a Mac Mini with the Pro chip, or the M1 Pro chip, 32 gigabytes of RAM, starting at 512 SSD, what price point are you going to put it? Right? The price point would probably be around $1,500, and it will sell like hotcakes. And it will be the replacement of the Intel version of the Mac Mini, which is still available through Apple right now. So these are the last missing pieces of the things that are available through that. Thanks, John. You're amazing. Like I said, you guys are amazing. Anyone who buys me coffee, you guys are the best, and I appreciate it. This stream runs on caffeine. All right. So that's still a possibility. I actually think that what I just mentioned right now, having a Mac Mini, same form factor, but because there's so much space in this system that you could literally run this M1 without a fan in the same chassis, there might be enough room in this chassis to squeeze in the thermals that's necessary for a Mac Pro chip or M1 Pro chip into the Mac Mini. That could be the next iteration. But I'm gonna go back to, you know, what I ended up doing. Once I saw that it's starting at the same exact price as the laptop, I was like, let's see what it came with. And when they mentioned that it came in with the Max chip, which the way that I was budgeting my machine, I was nowhere near getting into the Max type of processing, right? That was like kind of like a dream. So the fact that they brought that down to me and saying, hey, we're gonna take off the screen and the speakers and the microphone and all this extra technology that we have, but that you're not gonna need necessarily, we're just gonna jam pack it into this like little chunky Mac Mini and charge you a lot less, which is exactly what happened. Once I was able to go into the Apple store after the event and start putting pieces together, it came together very, very quick. I went with the base model, which was the M1 Max, and I said it came with a 10-core CPU and a 24-core GPU. So big jump from 14 cores to 24 cores. It's like adding another CPU onto the GPU. It starts at 32 gigabytes of memory, which was the max capability of the Pro chips, and expandable to 64. And I jumped all over that as well. So I know that the workflow and the things that I wanted to look for in the future when it comes to 3D rendering, you know, like Blender rendering and things like that, the RAM is going to be crucial when it comes to rendering all these things in real time. So I knew that I wanted to put my emphasis in the RAM because just like the SSD, it's something that you cannot change on these machines. And then now that you have that there, my setup ended up being the same exact price. I was gonna get the same 1 terabyte SSD, but now I was substantially getting a much better processor, much better GPU as far as like it combined, much better RAM, doubling it from 32 to 64, which is like one of the big points. And I was still able to get a terabyte SSD, which now runs at a much higher bandwidth because of the upgraded processor. So all of this combined at the same exact price was like a no-brainer. So literally just checked out within minutes of them going live, because throughout all of the chip shortages and everything like that, I didn't want to wait any longer that was necessary. And now I'm like really excited because as far as my needs go, this literally exceeds it. Aiden's being a little difficult, so I'm gonna be wrapping things up so I can take care with him. I thought he was good, but hey, digress. Let me grab him. Come here. Look, he's smiling now. He just wanted to be with Dad. Come on, we're gonna continue to run this live stream, buddy. All right. So, where was I? Oh, I was on my computer. So that's what made me pull the trigger, because it's literally a plug and play replacement. I don't have to reconfigure anything. I literally have to just remove my Mac Mini, put this new system in, and I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm already within the Apple ecosystem, so all of my programs I utilize are from Apple. So we're talking about, I'm a Final Cut Pro editor. This is exactly up my alley, so I can't wait to see what my new render times are going to be like, because it is literally going to be insane. me understanding exactly what was available, I knew that I didn't need the Max or the Ultra, let me say, because the Max was what the highest form prior to this. But I knew that I did not need the Ultra chip. It was already overkill. In all sincerity, the computer that I have right now is overkill, but to a certain extent. It's overkill for me right now, but it's not going to be overkill 10 years from now. And 10 years from now, I know that I'm going to still be using this computer. So the fact that I was able to spend, and you know, through credit, that I'm going to be paying $2,600 for this machine is amazing, because anything comparable in the PC world, you can, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, buddy, come on. This guy, I can't. He's gonna chew my cable on the live stream. Like I tell you, he loves chewing cables. I can't have anything near him. He's like a rabbit. Okay. That really threw me off. This dude was gnawing on it live. Okay. Where was I? You see, I literally lost my train of thought on that one. Oh, that one put a monkey wrench in it. Okay. Well, you know what? This is a good time to go back to the chat. It's been a while because I've been ranting for a minute. Let me see what I do here and see if it comes back to me. Okay, so Sammy was saying that I stay home. You're saying hi to everyone. Oh, we're way back. So Paul's saying, if you got a question for me, remember to put a Q there. Sammy's saying hi. Let's go over here. Everybody's saying hello to everyone, including Sly, saying hello to the crew. Paul saying, remember to hit the like button. Do that, please. Hit that like button. It's highly, highly appreciated. Okay. Okay, John has a question here. Says, I was the 7th person to hit the like button. Do I get a lucky 7 prize? Hey, I wish I could keep better track of that. We have 11 likes so far, and we have 10 people here in the room. So we're doing very, very good. I appreciate all of you. Scott says, maybe a Krispy Kreme. Mr. Sarkeesian is in the house. It says your money was better spent on the new computer. I know it was. Like the powerhouse that this machine is incredible. It is something that's going to last for like, oh, I think that's what I was talking about. That I know it's something that I'm gonna have for like the next 10 years. Like there might be a computer that I get if necessary, you know, that has more power. But right now, I'm pretty much set, and this is where I was going with it before I was rudely interrupted by Aiden. But if I were to try to compare and get a machine that's comparable on the Windows side, it's pretty much impossible to get anything in the 3080s, 3090s as far as video cards go. And Randall could back me up on this. You're looking at $1,500 just for the video card. That's it. So you're not talking about, like your case, your motherboard, your processor, your RAM, your memory, as far as your capacity, whether it's an M.2 or, SSD. You're not talking about power supply. You're not talking about fans that, you're going to need for your computer to cool it off, whether you're using the standard heat sink or an I/O system. All of that, like none of that's included. Just the GPU, to have a high-powered GPU. And I believe the most expensive one and the highest one, like Apple was talking about, that you can get is with 48 gigabytes of RAM. This far exceeds it when it comes to just like the general raw power, right? How it's utilized, that's dependent on the program, but the way that it's used, or just the general raw power, you're spending $1,500 just on the GPU. So any basic Windows PC with fairly decent graphics capability, you're looking at like a minimum or starting at like $4,000. And that's just the truth. These are no lie. So, and with what we're calling the chip shortage, and that these prices are starting to skyrocket because there is no availability for me to have the availability to get a powerhouse machine in today's climate, and that I don't feel that I'm getting price gouged because I got a middleman selling me the graphics processor that I need. That's where it's like a no-brainer. So if you were to take $1,500 off this machine and you would say, okay, GPU aside, a 64 gigabyte 10 core processor with 16 neural engines and the whole thing, and the IO with the, and that is going to run your particular programs the best, meaning my programs, but my Final Cut Pros, Logic, the things that I use because I'm an Apple sheep, right? But you're telling me that I could get all of that for $1,000, and then like the GPU for the 1,500, and it's all in a nice, neat little package, little box like this. Sold. Got them. That's why I said because I knew what I was looking for, and I was so so clear-minded of what I wanted to get out of my machine. As soon as they put that out there, I was like, this had MrCameraJunkie written all over it. Like Kevin says, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, because right now I don't need to get the displays that you're seeing here and all this stuff. I don't need all of that. And then I would have to change my system to utilize like the laptop as the main thing, as like the core piece. Now I'm really excited because the extra IO is also going to allow me to add that. Like this thing right here, this is the new overhead camera. So hey, check this out. This is my spoiler. This is completely off the side, but just because you can see it, this is my MX Master mouse, and I was able to take a piece of foam core and put a little spoiler / bumper on it, because my biggest complaint on it was the fact that I would scoot it over. Oh, excuse me, not trying to do that. But every time that I would scoot it over to like right there, like where my mug is at, it would literally like right click for me or click unintentionally because it would just bump into it. So now I created a little bumper to prevent that. So, but this is my new overhead cam, and now instead of it going through USB, I'll be able to like throw in like a legit cam link onto it, having all the extra IO, meaning nothing has to be sacrificed. I should have the ability now to run the 3 monitors easily, because currently I sacrifice one of my monitors here for this display. So let me see if I can go to that shot here. Yeah. So instead of me having my second monitor, the display or the information that would be coming out of that display that's hidden back there, that guy right there, this guy, right, is being shot up into this little guy right here. Let me see. There we go. This is the little HD monitor, and that has your comments. Your comments. There you go. Boom. Aiden, you can't be right on my. All right. So now I have the comments there. This is a little teleprompter thing so that I can read them. And that's it. Now I can read it, but now I have all the extra information squozed up into this one screen here, which is a little difficult. So now I should be able to, with this new machine, be able to add all 3 monitors and have a dedicated HDMI out port for this little monitor, so that I don't have to keep unplugging or doing all these other things, you know, I'm able to expand my production easily with this new system. So once again, super excited. So don't let Doc hear you say that. I don't even know what that could have been. Okay, I'm gonna continue. Happy Saturday, says Raphael. How are you doing, sir? Okay. Says the latest update to Ecamm today, and other one for sound devices. Yes. Kevin says the SE is an excellent bridge phone. I actually think so too, because that's the whole thing. Now I can touch into that now that we're talking and answering questions here. Is like the people who are complaining about this event, like, oh, this is such an old phone. Why would you put that? Like, that phone is not for you. Like, there's still a lot of people who dislike Face ID, don't like utilizing that function at all. Like my father, like this new SE, this is a perfect phone for my father. He's been asking for a new phone. I said, hey, do you like, I even offered, because he's on an iPhone 6 or an iPhone 6s, right? He's already a bit antiquated. He's like, I want a new one. I'm like, do you want an iPhone 8? He's like, no, I want something newer, but it's the same exact form factor. Now the SE, which was what I was thinking about getting him, now has the latest and greatest. Able to get that for him, say, hey, it's the newest phone. It's exactly the same, except it's going to work a whole lot better and a whole lot faster. Done deal. So don't tell him, but probably he's going to be getting an SE. You ain't heard that from me, Pops. He says, oh, by the way, thanks for reminding me, Lewis, time change. That is true, right? You just reminded me by me reminding you. But that, yeah, I believe it's this Sunday where we lose an hour, but something goes back and forth. Either we gain or we lose an hour this Sunday. John says, Lewis, I'm very happy and excited for you to get the Mac Studio. Picked up the 16-inch MacBook M1 Max chip in November and love it. Makes editing faster, yeah, and more enjoyable. Absolutely. And right now I have a whole lot of editing that I have been doing a lot more, seeming that I am a video editor for Ecamm, and I'm doing a production company where I'm doing projects and edits like that on the side. So I'm really excited to, put this thing through its paces. I'm excited because when it comes to computers, man, this thing is a powerhouse. Okay, Raphael says, true, Doc rocks. Doc is awesome. That was, I guess, the city's golf portion. I'm so backed up, guys. I'm straight pulling a Miss D in the chat. Oh, thank you, Paul, saying if you want to help support me, yep, you could always buy me some caffeine. It's highly appreciated, and for all of those who already did so, once again, thank you. It means the world to me. Kippy is in the house. How you doing, sir? Thank you for stopping by. Okay. Let's see. Says, just looked up the guys who announced the M1 Ultra, John and Johnny. You see, I was gonna say Johnny because Johnny's the guy in the laboratory underneath, but I didn't want to like butcher it, so I was gonna say Johnny, but I knew the other guy's name was John. But I appreciate that. Now it's just confirmation, right? It's got to be tough for them over there. It's like, yo, talk to Johnny or John, or the same dudes, but. Okay, you didn't put a Q, but it's a good question. It says, sure, all these numbers are great, but do we really need any of this? The OG M-Run runs circles around everything I throw at it, which is absolutely true, but that's right now, right? When I got this MacBook Pro years ago, back in 2013, this was a refresh because it was like the same exact design, but they were like refreshing the chips, right? So this one was with the i7 4-core. So this machine was the best that was available at that time, and now 10 years, because it was the best, it's still hanging around. It's still, giving viable fruit, so to speak. And that's what I need out of this computer. Not everything that I need right now, but I need everything that I could possibly need that I don't even know that I need in the future for the next 10 years. There are going to be programs now that are going to be specifically designed to maximize the potential of this hardware, right? Prior to this, even like the programs that I'm using, Final Cut Pro, are still not utilizing the entirety of the potential of this platform, but they will get there. And once, you know, who knows, maybe it was like Final Cut 11, right? That they come out with a completely new update to be M1, like based and built off of M1, and it's going to utilize it. That then is going to run circles around what we have now. So it is that, but just like some people say, like, oh, this is going to be the computer for the next 2 or 3 years or the next 4 or 5 years. I'm like, no. For me, at least, I know I'm going to be getting work out of this computer for the next 8 to 10 years, which is why I put in the investment. When I looked at like 8 years, how much it cost per month, pennies to the dollar, right? Especially for what I'm looking to get out of it. And the things that interest me, which is like Blender rendering, motion VFX, things like that. I've been really like interested in that aspect ever since I was made aware of the Corridor Crew channel on YouTube, which you will be seeing on Cities Gaw in the future, right? Through that is where I know what are the needs of the type of system, which is where Apple is really putting, you know, like their marbles into that basket, so to speak, and I'm happy for it. So I know that the things that are going to be coming in the horizon is what this computer is already ready for, right? There is going to get a point within probably the next 2 to 3 years where we're going to reach the limitations of this little Mac Mini, and when we get there, I'm already gonna be good, because the machine that I'm getting now, this studio, is gonna be capable of anything that's gonna be coming at that time and even longer in the future. So all right, Adam is here in the house. How you doing, Adam? Saying hi, Lewis. Happy you're down south. 24 Fahrenheit here, 50-mile-an-hour gust winds. Oh man, hope you're staying safe, sir. I'll tell you the truth, you know, even here in Miami, like it was warm, but it almost looked like there was a tornado warning just out of nowhere. I was driving by the Hard Rock Stadium, and it was even down the trees and everything, like, you know, the little trees on the side of the road and stuff like that. So like nothing really big, but it was just rain, water, and it looked like it was coming in sideways. I would say at least gust of like 40 to 45 mile an hour winds, but it wasn't, you know, wasn't that cold. Oh, Marine X is in the house. Says my M1 Mac Mini last live stream will be this upcoming Friday. Then it gets downgraded to the kiddo's computer. Can't wait for the Mac Studio. Oh, congratulations, MacBook. I got the mirror on my MacBook Pro M1 Max. Nice. So you're also getting the studios. Congratulations, man. It's gonna be a game-changing machine. Sly says that she loves that kid. So do I, man. That's what was going on. He was whining because he's tired. Give me a quick second. He just fell asleep on the rug here. I'm gonna go ahead and put him to bed. I will be right back.
I'm running out of time. Every day goes by so fast, and every moment counts, baby. I don't wanna miss a thing. We can sleep under the stars, we can sleep under the stars, or hang out in hotel bars, driving somewhere in your car. We can sleep under the stars, we can sleep under the stars, under the stars.
All right. Okay, so we are back. Let me go here. Kevin says he just needs some time in the spotlight. Yeah, it looks like he just wanted to be held, because whenever he starts getting, like, tired, just like every other kid, he fights sleep, and that's when he wants to be held and coddled and stuff like that. That's probably why he started gnawing on my cable here. Motivated Mind. Carlos, how are you doing, sir? Says smart purchase, though, is gonna work well for you. Yeah, and the other thing is, right, I'm gonna see now about backing up this machine and see how much I can get for it, because what I had planned to do prior to it was, I don't need the full-on XDR, high definition or high dynamic range LCDs on these new computers. Like, they're great, but this Retina display is still amazing for what I use it for, my use case. And I know that an even slightly better Retina display is on the MacBook Air, the M1. So my thought now is that I'm probably going to look into getting a MacBook Air, the 16 gigabyte, which is the max that you can get it for that system, and have it replace this machine. Yep. So that I can, move on, and now I will have like an entire M1 ecosystem with my Mini, my Studio, and my Air, and I will be like happy, because this whole system here. So let's go to it, right? All of this here, all of this that you're seeing here, this laptop, it keeps losing connection, but this laptop here, my Mini underneath it. Oh, it has something to do with me moving this laptop, because it's literally connected right there. So just so that you understand, this red cable that you see right here is connected to a hub that when I move this, well, it was affecting it. So, but okay, as soon as I figure it out, it just stops doing that crazy thing. But regardless, this entire setup is changing. Like, even right now, it's changed a little bit, because right now all of the music, right, effectively tonight has been running through Ecamm, which I'm very happy. They've really stepped up a lot of the audio capabilities with this latest update, and because of it, I no longer need to have an iPhone here running music through a separate channel. That also gives me the ability to run less things, modularity here, and now these are the only two things that are really necessary. So it's going to be these two and my Mac Studio, and that's going to eliminate a lot of things here on my desktop, and a lot of things that were here because of the simple fact that it had to be modular, right? Like, there's the same connection that I'm talking about. That hub is the hub that actually gives my HDMI out. So whether it's shooting it to that display out here, or I have the ability to switch it right here in front of me so that I can then send the signal to this small HD monitor, either way, it's only using the same connection, and I need that modularity there. The new system is going to totally take care of that, so it should be able to clean up my entire system here and just make everything super duper streamlined. Those are the things that I'm excited for. Okay, so Charles is also here. He made it. Thank you for stopping by, saying hello to all. Says, MrCameraJunkie shows you how to fix things. Give me an idea. Hot glue gun, broken glass. Yeah, we're talking about my bumper, right? This guy right here. The funny thing is, it doesn't look bad, and I've never seen a mouse with it, but it was just one of those like pain points, right? That, like, whether it was a Monster can, a water bottle, anything, I'm looking at the screen and I'm editing, and it would just tap it, and then it would just like click it. So if I'm in the middle of an edit and I'm doing a right click when I don't want to, it's a big pain in my butt. So that's why I said, you know what, let's fix this. And I designed this spoiler thing. Another thing that I did to it here, let me see if we can, let's go overhead, right? The overhead cam. I also added the same foam core off to the side, because for my hand, it just wasn't thick enough here, from side to side. And what I was doing mostly, because I, just instinctively, it wasn't thick enough for my hand. I wasn't placing my thumb here, and I wasn't utilizing this buttons or these at all. And what I was doing was actually placing my thumb on the outside lip here. And because that was thicker, I was actually utilizing my mouse like this and not using any of that functionality that's built in right there. So, right, like you spend $100 on a mouse to get all this functionality, and because it just didn't sit right, I wasn't utilizing it because I was pinching it on the outside out here, literally holding my mouse like that and not utilizing those buttons, until I just decided to do that and throw some foam core on there. Right, this wasn't hot glue this time, Randy. This is just double-sided tape. The hot glue was for the front here because it needed a little bit more reinforcement, seeming that it was a bumper, but it just gives me the ability, here, let me shut it off so that I don't click anything, to click, right, and not have anything click it when I didn't want to. So now this gives me the ability to have something here, and even if I wanted to, I can use my mouse to move the water bottle a little bit, just to give me that extra space that I needed while I'm working, because the Stream Deck here in hand, my mouse in the other, and this is me while I'm editing, just looking at the screen and trying not to pay attention to what's going on the desk. And with these two little, modifications for me, this made this mouse all the difference in the world. So now, the same way, nothing will stop me, and when I go to edit, it's like, get to work. Alright, so now let's turn that back on so I can use the mouse. Hassan is in the house. How are you doing, sir? What is up? Welcome to the live stream. Okay, so Paul corrected. It said spring forward tonight. Thank you. You will lose an hour of sleep. Oh, that sucks for me. That sucks for me because I am actively right now, believe it or not, on 1 hour of sleep. I was, finishing up some edits, finishing up some work, and Aiden wasn't the easiest to work with yesterday, right? Very clingy. But with that being said, it was around 7 o'clock in the morning by the time that I actually went to go to get some rest. And I took about an hour nap before Aiden woke up and started needing me to, do my fatherly duties. And once I finished and I had another chance, I just got wrapped up with everything during the day, conversations, work. And the next thing you know, I have a live stream and I hadn't even eaten. So I had to make sure that I got some food in me. And now we're here. And when I do get some sleep tonight, I'm gonna lose another hour of it. So yeah, believe it or not, yeah, I'm on 1 hour sleep from 7 to 8 a.m. this morning. James Hicks is in the house. How are you doing, sir? Thank you for stopping by. Even Mr. Duncan is like, Mr. Hicks. All the cool kids have the Paul Duncan with the wrench. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, look at that. It says, you got to get the Duncan in the mod squad, man. He is the best. Dad of the year? Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. It says, I love the Camo app. I'm just testing it out right now. The biggest thing that I've noticed for me, it doesn't matter because I'm testing it out against what's the other one? Epoch Cam. Yeah, so Epoch Cam from Elgato. I bought that one like a year ago or something like that, and it still works fine. It's, it works wireless or through USB. Always, if you can, cable your connections. So that's why I have that red cable that I mentioned before. Hang it up there. So I'm testing it out, but regardless whether I'm using camo or anything like that, like the colors are so warm. They are so orange. Like looking Oompa Loompa. Here, let me see, where are we? Yeah, so like, look. Even though I'm looking orange here too. So I gotta check exactly what's going on now. But I guess it's just the complexion. It's just not as orange. But even though, what I'm trying to say is that even if it's not that much off right now as the way that I see it on my screen, this is pulling it all the way to the cool side. If I were to just leave it normal, it would really look really saturated, real orange, very Trump-like. Don't like it. Don't like that on me at all. All right, so let's go back here. Okay, Nano is in the house as well. How you doing, Luis? Kevin says, I love that mouse. I have two of them. The ability to change those buttons is so super convenient. Yeah, you know, the most least used button that I use personally on this mouse is the mouse, the click on the roller, right? On the roller ball or the scroll wheel. That's the words, right? English is hard today. Okay. On the scroll wheel, there's a click on it, right? And I never really use it. I set it up to be the controller so that it can go from like the smooth to the clicked style on it now, and I use it all the time. So now it actively gives me another button, the button on the top, and I use that for so many other things, especially on Final Cut Pro. Dude, I even put the cut like blade all, so that I have blade on my Stream Deck, but whenever I need blade all, I now have it on my mouse, so it's just like hop skip between both. Man, super convenient. Love this mouse for editing. Okay. It says from Lewis, brief mention earlier about the goals. Another way to support is to watch some of his past uploads and build up the watch hours. Some great info there. Thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, so there was this one time, right, where I was with, like, I wanted to use this payphone, right? And there was a dude there, and when I tapped on his shoulder, it was none other than Alicio Way III. And as he walked away, I was like, Alicio! I was like, Alicio! You had to be there. I would love to know if anyone got that reference. I would just love to know. How you doing, Alicio? We live up in this piece. How are you doing, sir? It says, not only will you lose an hour, but you would be colder in the morning. It's 41 in Orlando right now, says Charles. Oh, so that front is coming down. Says, that's shorts weather here in Wisconsin. I can imagine, dude. But I love seeing your videos, John. Like all that snow. And you're doing really great drone shots. I just, had to throw that in there. It says, what mouse are you using? You're showing Mr. because it was doing something. Okay, I'll go ahead and put it again. This is the MX Master S2, right? Yep, MX Master S2. Let's see if we can get the focus right there. They have one that's more specific to Mac computers, but I come from the PC world. But this is a great mouse for both. I think there are some functions that work a little bit better when you decide to be the ones specific that are for Mac. But this little spoiler thing really has to do with any mouse. I've had this issue with a lot of different mice out there, which is whenever you get close to something, instead of hitting my now bumper here, it will literally like right click or click on something incorrectly while you're doing an edit, while you're doing a like a text project, a bunch of different things. So just to avoid random clicks by bumping into something like my mug, anything like that, I built this little foam core spoiler, and like I showed before, it allows me to even like move the devices without it force clicking my mouse. All right, let's go back here. Boop. Nice to have you here though, Mr. Nano. I really do appreciate you coming in. Says I'm doing like a bear and I'm hibernating at 41 degrees. That's a game changer. You could change the functions with each app as well. Yes, yes, absolutely. Like the fact that you could change the apps, or that you could change the functionalities per apps. Exactly, because and not only the functionality like of the buttons, but the mouse cursor speed, which is so critical because I have a dual display, right? So I have my mouse that is running from like side to side pretty fast. But when I come into Final Cut and I need to be precise, I need to slow that down. And as soon as it clicks onto Final Cut, it recognizes the program and then automatically changes all of my buttons configured to that program. Like the modularity of these machines, these devices, like the mice, the Stream Deck, right? Like these little nuances, man, those things really make all the difference in the world. And just as a reminder, because I'm trying to close everything up, if you are just, catching up with us and you haven't done so already, please make sure to hit that like button. It goes a long, long way. It's highly, highly appreciated. It says, okay, I got Alicio laughing. So hopefully he understood. It says, me too, Charles. Heat wave tonight at 38 degrees. That's a heat wave, says Sly. So it says we had a snowstorm yesterday morning. Wow. Okay, Kevin got it too. The Mighty Ducks guy. Alicio Way the Third. I was like, Alicio. So Mr. Richard says, yep, Sly, blanket, fireplace, and hot chocolate. Well, I'm really glad that Kevin and I'm really glad that Alicio got it because, I don't know if he's ever heard that before, but that's just something that I always think about. I was like, Alicio. And with that being said, as always, everyone, thank you. Another successful live stream. This was number 67, so that means next week is number 68. I really need to put into account because I think it might have gone over 100 live streams already, but I digress. I'm trying to keep track of all of it while I'm doing it, right? It's like trying to keep track of the miles while I'm in the middle of the marathon. But I will do my best. I will keep everyone informed. As always, thank you for hanging out. You know that I'm going to be doing this all over again next week, right? Same time, same place, even though it's going to be an hour ahead because of daylight savings time. On the clock, technically, will still be 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, hope to find you here once again. Thank you all, camera junkies. You guys mean the world to me, and I can't wait to do it all over again next week. Have a great week, and I will see you next time. Talk to you.